You ever have one of those days where the universe makes a typo with your life? Where you wake up as you, but everyone around you starts acting like you're someone else entirely. That happened to me last Tuesday, and I still haven't fixed it. Let me back up. I'm a tour guide, not the fancy kind with a flag and a microphone. The cheap kind. The kind who stands outside Buckingham Palace in a second-hand windbreaker, holding a laminated card that says historical walks, 15 pounds, and prays it doesn't rain. My name is Danny, 41 years old, divorced, living in a studio flat in Pimlico that smells like last week's microwave curry. This is not a job you brag about, but I know the palace. I know the gates. I know the guards better than most tourists ever will. I know that the Real Queen's Guard, the ones with the bearskin hats and the red tunics, are actual soldiers. Professional, deadly serious, and trained to stare through you like you're made of fog. Most days, I stand near the Canada Gate entrance around 10:45 a.m. That's when a crowd gets thick. Americans with fanny packs. Japanese families with matching umbrellas. School groups from Manchester who are already bored. I tell them stories. Little ones. The time a tourist tried to hug a guard and got screamed into next Tuesday. The story about the soldier who fainted face first into the gravel because his hat weighed 5 pounds and it was 30 degrees. The usual stuff. That Tuesday started normal. Overcast sky. That wet London cold that doesn't bother raining. It just sits there, soaking into your bones. The crowd was medium-sized. Maybe 200 people. Cameras up. Phones out. Everyone waiting for the changing of the guard, even though most of them didn't understand what they were looking at. I was leaning against the railing, drinking lukewarm coffee from a cardboard cup, when I saw him. Build tension the guard. Not a regular one. A new one. Fresh face. Young, maybe 19, 20. His bearskin hat sat slightly crooked, like he hadn't learned how to balance it yet. And his eyes were moving. That's a thing most people don't know. The guards are allowed to move their eyes. They just can't break posture. Can't react. Can't smile. Can't flinch. Can't acknowledge the screaming children or the old men making jokes about their feet. But this kid, his eyes were scanning. Nervous. Quick. Like a rabbit pretending to be a statue. I noticed because that's my job. Noticing things other people miss. The crowd didn't notice. They saw the uniform, the height, the rifle. That was enough. A dad lifted his daughter onto his shoulders so she could see. Look, sweetheart. A real soldier. The kid guard didn't blink, but I saw his jaw tighten. 10 minutes passed. The crowd ebbed and flowed. A group of German tourists pushed to the front. A woman in a red coat kept stepping past the rope line until a police officer waved her back. And then it happened. An elderly man, maybe 75, 80, came shuffling forward. He was wearing an old regimental tie, the kind with tiny embroidered badges. Ex-military, I'd bet my rent on it. His hand shook slightly. His eyes were wet. He stopped right in front of the new guard. Not close enough to be dangerous. Just close. And then he bowed. Not a quick nod. A real bow. From the waist. Slow. Deliberate. The kind of bow you give a flag at a funeral. The crowd went quiet. The old man straightened up, his lips moving. I couldn't hear what he said. Something quiet. Something private. And the guard, this kid who should have stood there like a wax figure, did something I've never seen before. He blinked twice. Fast. And his chin dipped. Just a centimeter. Just enough that if you weren't watching for it, you'd miss it. He almost nodded back. Then he caught himself. Went rigid again. But the damage was done. Because a woman in the front row saw it. And she misinterpreted everything. Oh my God, she whispered to her husband. That's not just a guard. Look at his medals. He didn't have any medals. He was too new. But people hear what they want to hear. Climax within 60 seconds. The energy shifted. A teenager bowed, half joking at first, then uncertain when no one laughed. A businessman in a suit gave a little waist bend, like he was meeting Japanese clients. An older woman clutched her chest and curtsied. Not everyone. Maybe 15 people. But that's all it takes. 15 people treating one man differently, and the rest start wondering what they missed. The new guard stood frozen. His face didn't change, but his ears went red. Bright red. The kind of red you can see from 20 feet away. And me? I could have fixed it. I could have walked over, said, "Excuse me, folks, that's just a regular soldier doing his first week. No need to bow." I could have been helpful, honest, the good guy. But I didn't. Because here's the ugly part. The part I'm not proud of. When those people bowed, something inside me sat up straight. Something hungry. Something that had been asleep for years. I've spent my whole life being invisible. The guy behind the counter. The ex-husband who picks up his daughter every other weekend. The tour guide people walk past to ask a real policeman for directions. And now, because of a crooked hat and a nervous kid, a crowd was showing respect. Not to me, but to the uniform, to the symbol. But I was standing close enough that it blurred. One of the bowing tourists glanced at me, then at the guard, then back at me. And he smiled, this small, confused smile, like he wasn't sure if I was part of the official ceremony. I didn't correct him. I just stood there, coffee in hand, windbreaker zipped to the chin. And for 30 seconds, I let myself pretend. Pretend the bow was for me. Pretend the respect was mine. Pretend I was someone who mattered. Resolution: the moment broke when a real officer appeared. A sergeant with a face like a leather boot. He marched straight to the new guard, leaned in, and said something too quiet to hear. The kid's ears went from red to white. The sergeant turned to the crowd. Didn't shout. Didn't even raise his voice. Just looked at them with that particular British stare, the one that says you have made a mistake and you should feel embarrassed. "There's no need to bow," he said. "Move along now." And just like that, the spell shattered. People laughed nervously, looked at their shoes, drifted away to look at the fountain or check their phones. The old man in the regimental tie was already gone. The new guard resumed his statue pose. But his eyes found mine for half a second. I don't know what he saw there. Recognition, maybe, or shame. Ending line, I walked back to my spot by the railing, finished my cold coffee, and thought about how easy it is to let people believe a lie, especially when the lie makes you feel like someone you've always wanted to be. Part 2, the second bow hook. You'd think after the first time, I would have learned. You'd think I would have gone home, felt bad about it for a night, and then never done it again. But that's not how this kind of thing works. The first bow was an accident, a mistake, a weird little glitch in reality that I happened to be standing next to. The second bow was my fault. Set up the next morning, I showed up early. Told myself it was for work. Good tour guide knows the schedule, right? Knows when the guard rotations change, when the crowd peaks, when the light hits the palace just right for photos. Lie. I showed up because I wanted to see if the kid was back. He was. Same post. Same crooked hat, though someone had adjusted it slightly. Same nervous eyes, but harder now, like he'd spent the night telling himself to be tougher. The crowd was smaller. A Tuesday morning after a bank holiday. Maybe 80 people. Dreary light. A cold wind that came straight off the mall and made everyone huddle into their coats. I stood in my usual spot. Same coffee. Same railing. Same laminated sign hanging from my neck like a badge of failure. And then I noticed something strange. The old man from yesterday was back. Same regimental tie. Same shaking hands. Same watery eyes. He stood at the back of the crowd this time, not pushing forward. Watching. Waiting. Build tension. I should have walked away. I knew that. But my feet didn't move. A tour bus pulled up. Japanese tourists. Polished. Organized. Their guide wore a neat blue blazer and spoke into a headset. He pointed at the guard, said something in Japanese that made the group nod seriously. One of them, a young woman with round glasses, looked at the guard, then at me, then back at the guard. She leaned toward her friend and whispered something. I caught one word. Sensei. Teacher. She thought I was in charge. I didn't correct her. The friend looked at me with new eyes. Appraising. Respectful. And then, I swear to God, she bowed. Just a small one. A head bow. The kind you give to someone senior. My chest went tight. The first tourist yesterday? That was a fluke. A chain reaction from the old man's bow. But this was directed at me. She looked right at my face and bowed. I could have said, I'm just a tour guide. I could have laughed it off, shaken my head, pointed at the rail guard. But here's the thing nobody tells you about lies. The first one hurts. The second one is easier. And by the third one, it starts to feel like the truth. I gave her a small nod. Formal. Diplomatic. the kind of nod a royal official might give. She smiled. Her friend smiled. They took a photo. Not of the guard. Of me. Climax, that's when it got out of hand. A man in a leather jacket walked up. London accent. Builder, maybe. Big shoulders. Shave head. He looked at my laminated sign, then at the guard, then back at me. You with the palace? He asked. I opened my mouth to say no. What came out was, I'm part of the historical interpretation team. That's not even a real thing. I made it up on the spot. But it sounded official. It sounded like someone who deserved a bow. The builder narrowed his eyes. Right. So who's the new kid, then? He looks like he's shaving once a week. I glanced to the guard. The kid was watching me. Not with anger. With confusion. Like he was trying to figure out what game I was playing. He's training, I said. First month. The builder grunted. Tough job. It is, I said. And for a moment, I wasn't lying. I thought about the kid standing there for hours. No vazrom. No water. No scratching an itch. No reacting when a drunk man shouts insults or a child pulls his coat. Respect, the builder said. And he stuck out his hand. I shook it. Then he bowed. Just a little. A head dip. But it was a bow. By now, 6 or 7 other people had noticed. The Japanese tourists were taking photos of me. A French couple was whispering and pointing. A teenager held up his phone like he was recording something important. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. And the old man, the one with the regimental tie, he started walking toward me. Slow, unsteady. His left foot dragged a little. Stroke survivor, maybe. He stopped 3 feet away. Looked at my face. Looked at my windbreaker. Looked at my laminated sign. And then he bowed. Not like the others. A full bow. Deep. Shaky. His hands pressed against his thighs like he was standing at attention. When he straightened up, there were tears on his cheeks. Thank you for your service, he said. His voice cracked. I was in the Falklands. I know what it costs. I didn't say anything. I couldn't, because I haven't served a single day in my life. The closest I've come to the military is watching Zulu on BBC Two. Resolution, the sergeant appeared again. Same leather face. Same quiet menace. He walked straight past the old man, past the tourists, and stopped right in front of me. For 10 seconds, he didn't speak. Just stared, looking at my sign, my jacket, my face. You, he said. Me, I said. My voice came out too high. What's your game? Tour guide, I said. Finally, the truth. He looked at the crowd, at the people still bowing, at the old man wiping his eyes. You need to leave, he said. Quiet, not angry. Worse than angry. Disappointed. Now, I left. I walked past the Japanese tourists, who bowed again as I passed. I walked past the French couple, who nodded respectfully. I walked past the teenager with the phone, who was still recording. And I didn't correct a single one of them. Ending line, I made it 3 blocks before I had to sit down on a bench, put my head between my knees, and ask myself the question I still can't answer. If nobody gets hurt, is a lie still wrong? Part 3, the man who wasn't their hook the 3rd time, I planned it. That's the part that keeps me awake at night. The first time was an accident. The second time was a failure of courage. But the 3rd time, I put on a specific jacket. I stood in a specific spot. I waited for a specific crowd. And when they bowed, I didn't feel guilty anymore. I felt seen. Set up 3 days later. Thursday morning. A cold front had moved in. The kind of damn cold that makes your teeth ache. I wore a black wool coat I'd bought at a charity shop. It didn't fit right, too big in the shoulders, but it looked official. Looked like something a palace staff member might wear. I left my tour guide sign at home. I wasn't Danny from Pimlico today. I was nobody, and nobody can be anybody. The palace looked gray. The sky looked gray. The guards looked like black smudges against the stone. There was a new rotation. 3 guards on the front. The nervous kid was gone, replaced by a woman with a sharp jaw and eyes that didn't move. I stood near the Victoria Memorial, not too close to the gates, just close enough to be noticed. Build tension, a school group arrived. 30 kids, maybe 11 years old. 2 teachers. One of them, a young woman with a bright yellow scarf, was trying to keep them in line and failing. The kids were loud, bored. One boy kept pretending to shoot the guards with finger guns. Don't do that, the teacher said. They're real soldiers. So, the boy said. She sighed, looked around. saw me standing by the memorial, straightened up. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you at the palace?" There it was. The question. The doorway. "I'm here on official business," I said. Not a lie. My business was my own. I hadn't said what kind. She nodded. "Could you tell the kids something? About respect? They don't listen to me." I looked at the 30 faces. Yawning. Fidgeting. One girl was picking her nose. "Sure," I said. I walked over. Stood with my hands behind my back. The way the real guards stand when they're off duty. "These soldiers," I said, "stand here for 2 hours at a time. They don't move. They don't drink. They don't scratch. If they faint, they fall forward so they don't drop their rifles. That's not a joke. That's the rule." The kids went quiet. "The man inside that uniform," I said, "has a name, a family. He's somebody's son, somebody's brother. And he's chosen to stand in the cold so you can take photos and go home warm." The teacher looked at me with something like awe. One of the kids, a girl with braids, asked, "Are you a soldier too?" Climax the world got very small, very quiet. I could have said no. I could have said, "I'm just a tour guide who talks too much." I could have told the truth and walked away and felt bad about it for an afternoon. But I didn't. I said, "That's not a lie if you say it right. Could mean anything. I was a soldier in a past life. I was a soldier in my dreams. I was a soldier the way every man who watches war movies thinks he could have been one." The girl with the braids bowed. Not a full bow. A kid bow. Awkward. Clumsy. But real. And then another kid bowed. And another. And then the teacher bowed to me. Right there in front of 30 children. My chest burned. My eyes stung. For one perfect, terrible second, I understood why people become liars. Because the truth is cold. The truth is a studio flat in Pimlico, and a microwave curry, and an ex-wife who doesn't call back. But this was warm. The woman guard on the post was watching me. Her eyes hadn't moved from my face for the last 2 minutes. She couldn't speak, couldn't react, but her jaw was tight. Her knuckles were white on the rifle. She knew. She couldn't do anything about it. But she knew. Resolution, a police officer appeared. Young, nervous himself. He walked up to me with the careful steps of someone who doesn't want to make a scene. "Sir," he said, "can I have a word?" I followed him 20 feet away. The kids watched. The teacher watched. The guard watched. "We've had a report," the officer said. "Someone's been impersonating palace staff." I never said I was palace staff. You didn't correct people who thought you were. I didn't have an answer for that. "I'm not arresting you," he said. "But you need to leave this area. Permanently. If you come back, we'll have a different conversation." I nodded. Walked away. Behind me, I heard the teacher say, "Kids, say thank you to the nice man." 30 small voices said thank you. I didn't turn around. Ending line, I'm writing this at my kitchen table. It's raining outside. My phone hasn't rung in 3 days. My daughter is with her mom for the week. And I keep thinking about that old man in the regimental tie. The one who bowed to a stranger because he needed to believe someone deserved his respect. I think that's the worst part. Not that I lied, but that I understood him. People bow to him by mistake, and part of him doesn't correct them. That part? That's just a man who's forgotten what it feels like to matter. And once you taste it, even the wrong kind of mattering is hard to give up.